So if they are the top 4 asks or desires that I have of my people, my country, one, look at policy change, evaluate that policy change, and stand behind people who have a vision. And every time people think they have me in a box or in a slot, it seems that I do something which helps them wonder, oh, now how do I kind of respond to her? I have never fit into one silo, one slot. And I think that is why many people are perplexed by Smriti Irani as a persona. Normally people do politics for 3 things. One, for fame and glory. Second, for money. And there are very few people who just want to bring about a change. I was in the third category.
And somewhere along the way you decided to, I don't know whether you decided to or somebody else suggested it, to become the Rahul Gandhi specialist in the BJP.
That is an assignment given. You see, I think what people don't realize about a organized framework like the BJP is that you don't just get to cherry pick what you want to do. If people presume that I picked Amethi, Amethi has had a history of electoral losses for BJP. So anybody in their right mind would not pick a place where you're destined to lose. It was a shot in the dark. But the issue is that how do you construct the shot in the dark? People had nothing. They wanted somebody to come and fix the house. If I'm very passionate about an issue, why should I lie about it?
And you are saying it will not worry you if that passion is seen as being aggressive or being over-aggressive by anybody?
Is it seen similarly in men? No.
Valid point. Valid point.
You would be looked upon as passionate. I am looked as abrasive.
Hey everyone, this is the India story, and I'm very, very pleased to have with me somebody who is turning 50 one day after this recording.
Yes.
Smriti Irani. Let me start by saying happy birthday.
Thank you.
Half a century.
Last day I get called 49.
Yes, and you're going to be 50, and now I know age should normally not come into it, but in this case, I think it's an interesting aspect, because are you, as you're turning 50, looking at a certain amount of reinvention for yourself? Let me start by asking you.
No, I think that as a media or a political personality, I have never fit into one silo, one slot. And I think that is why many people are perplexed by Smriti Irani as a persona. Because normally individuals are put in a box and then evaluated. And every time people think they have me in a box or in a slot, it seems that I do something which helps them wonder, oh, now how do I kind of respond to her? My life's journey has never been about becoming something for everybody else. My life's journey has been about becoming something I want to be, or experiencing things I want to experience, or leverage opportunities I deem fit for myself. People respond according to how I am publicly viewed and perceived. For me, age is not a number, wasn't a number even when I began. In politics, that was the age of 26. Electoral politics, that was my debut. In media, my debut was when I was 21. So I don't think that there is many female or individuals for that matter, irrespective of gender, who've had what now?
3 times
28 years of
28 years media,
public life,
3 times MP, 5 times minister.
Yeah.
The reason why I think age is interesting is because you must often have had people writing you off, and after Amethi and others, there were people who said, what's going to happen now in politics in the future. It's interesting that a lot of people don't realize just how
experienced,
young, not just experience, how young you are, because now you're 50, you are like 7 years younger than your opponent from your former opponent from Amethi, Rahul Gandhi. You're much younger than many people who are considered youth leaders. So a long way to go, right?
Yeah, I think that we have always, in some way, politics especially, has envisaged a particular age bracket and deemed it fit to look at experience from the age bracket. that anybody who has experience possibly is grey haired, anybody who's had experience is possibly 60, 70, and hence we should trust them, their vision, because their life's journey politically has been so vibrant that they can be trusted with important decisions. In my case, I have been very lucky that I started getting responsibility when I was chronologically very young. So my first BJP responsibility came to me when I was 26. My first election in Lok Sabha I fought when I was 27. Now, even when I was 27, people said, "Ek hai, haar jayegi, chali jayegi." And I always tell people, I said, imagine if I'd won then, what would my life be like? So I don't think victory or defeat has ever defined me. Age has never defined my journey. It is what can I do in that opportunity given politically, or for that matter, even in the media business. And what is the output that the person who's giving me that support or giving me that opportunity, do they have a victory in my work as well? For me, that has been always important. So be it my media or political career, people who invest in me, their time, the fact that they're giving me that opportunity, they should feel that we gave the job to a competent person, we gave the job to somebody who's hardworking, we gave the job to somebody who's not myopic, has a vision for what can be done with this particular position, this particular opportunity, let's say in the times to come. So on that aspect, I'm extremely proud that I measured up.
So you did mention that it's tough to put you into a box. There are many boxes that you...
Because the minute you put people in a box, Vikram, then comes three natural stages. One, that now you know how to diffuse them. Second, you know how to demean them. Third, you know how to disenfranchise them.
And how to cage them.
Disenfranchise leads to caging of some sort. But I was never in one spot, one box, so that people could know that, okay, this is the totality of the persona, now let's deal with her.
Right, so let's look at not the boxes, but the frameworks that perhaps define you, right? From whether it is the new activities that you're doing in women's empowerment and the social activities and the Alliance for Global Good, the politics, and of course, Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi too, which is, by the way, congratulations, it
Number
seems to
one.
be doing really, 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 really well. And that's, does that surprise you a little bit as to how well it's doing?
I think I was very confident, but it's also to be said that the network and the production house, the network leadership was not circumspect, but creative people tend to be tentative. Chalega, nahi chalega. Because I was extremely adamant that the issues that we bring up in chapter 2 are relevant societally. Become conversations not only in drawing rooms, but also, let's say, at work. Become relevant not only for middle-aged, middle class, but also for the young. In the age of OTT, the first chapter of Kyunki happened when there was no OTT. So we were given a 10:30 slot that nobody is watching. It was a dead slot. And I realized that we were supposed to be on the tailwind of Amitabh Bachchan and over and done with. We were non-starters. The fact that we could churn a kind of a viewership at 10:30 in the night in those godforsaken eras of television and have a female protagonist as the mainstay and then rule television numbers for 8 years consistently. So Kyunki didn't kind of stop airing because it became number 10. It stopped airing when it was number 1. So it's very rare for a program to come to a close when you're at the top of the game, when you are the darling of the markets, when advertisers are thronging. So we managed to do it then.
But that actually adds...
And today, for us to survive in the OTT world in competition...
I mean, you're not surviving, and I said you're doing quite well, so congratulations. But it must
have a 60-year-old plus protagonist, non-glamorous, doing a melodrama around issues of domestic violence, issues of divorce, separation, issues of starting your own company, issues of marrying somebody who already has a child, the adjustment to a young woman, on those issues, which are very contemporary, and having so many media opportunities for other stories to be told, it is no mean feat.
It would be considered a big risk for the simple reason that, sequels...
From my perspective, yes, it was a huge risk.
It was a huge risk, right? Because, okay, politics, whatever was happening in politics, and now you're suddenly saying, okay, I'm going to go back to this. restarting after 25 years with such a big gap, completely different milieu. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work?
I
Are
think what
people
is
going to expect,
no. I think for me, what is important, Vikram, is to see what I learned in 25 years. Is it still applicable? I'm known as somebody who's a communication specialist, narrative builder. Now, that is an aura that was created for me politically by many people who heard me, who saw me strategize on issues of communication. But Smriti Irani is an individual. Whatever I learned in 25 years about my country, my society, how applicable it is in the media world today of make believe. I wanted to test that. And I was very, very confident that I know this about my country, I know this about my people, it'll work. And I still remember people were looking at me, are you sure? I said, absolutely sure. So my satisfaction comes from the fact, oh, so I put in practice what I experienced, and that has paid dividends.
So have you put a lot of whatever you have learned personally
Yes.
into Tulsi version 2? She's business minded, she's a
Yes.
little, I think, colder, less emotional,
Yes.
can take decisions like leaving Meher and going off for
Yes,
6 years.
yes.
I mean, these are
Yes.
tough
And I
decisions to
think
take, setting up businesses.
It's also a compliment to the network and the makers that they gave me that leeway. One is to me being
Hang on,
confident.
so did this come from you or did this come from the writers and the
So
makers?
when the maker said, this time we'll have Tulsi leave me here. So they gave me enough leeway to kind of reconfigure the dialogues. So I will start, and I did this when I was a creative personality 26 years ago also, that I would rewrite certain dialogues. So I have that freedom on set. So it's wonderful to kind of in that composition rewrite some stuff on your own, and then have people say, "Oh, I liked it." So you have that additional, gleeful, that joyful part of the journey where you know that that was your little contribution and it seems to have worked.
It's of course interesting by the time.
So it's not one of those abla naris, hi, mujhe chhod diya.
That's exactly the point I was trying to refer to, right? That you could be in a position where you left him for 6 years, for 6 years,
And then say, let's
perhaps
get
a
divorced.
misunderstanding. You're still being somewhat tough, and I mean, I don't know. Look, by the time these people see
The
this,
fact that Vikram
things may
Chandra
have
is
changed.
watching, can you imagine?
I mean,
Who would imagine a newsman like you watching a Saas Bahu series?
no, but I'm also interviewing you, so I have to be aware of what all you're
You
doing.
would be caught dead watching it 10 years ago.
I must confess, I did not watch any of the earlier episodes. I will confess entirely.
So if you have that capacity to make a newsman forget the realities of the world and become a character, and that to a newsman who's covered me as a politician, that is the fascinating part of my journey. That I can make people who have seen me operate as a cabinet minister, as a politician, who have seen my speeches in parliament, and forget it and just concentrate on me as a character, not even as an actor.
Yeah. But the reason why, of course, I have to be always very, very interested in whatever you're doing as a character, especially when it comes to the media. There is a story which you once told me, which perhaps is the right time to repeat, that you wanted to be a journalist and you'd come applying as a media anchor, and for whatever
The
reason,
Archana Complex office.
somebody
and
came to
East
the
of
Archana
Kailash.
Complex office and they didn't, whoever, it wasn't me, I never met you at that time,
But
I
good.
would have 100%
I think
hired
that-
you. You'd have been a TV news anchor and not any of the other
No,
things
I
that
don't
you
think
did.
I was coming to be an anchor. I was coming to be a journalist. And I know the differentiation between the two.
Yeah.
I was very fascinated by the news of the world. I was very fascinated by this very deep urge to scratch the surface and see what the truth is. Possibly not opine, but assimilate opinions on certain issues. That was my fascination. It was also a mental way of traveling the world. To say, I want to learn more. I have that inclination even today. I would read random stuff across geopolitics or finance, which has nothing to do with my workload right now. I did that even as a minister. I still remember, I did an extension, a Berkeley Haas fintech course online through a platform called Emeritus. Emeritus actually called to check whether this is Smriti Irani. I was like, yeah, it's me. And they didn't tell Berkeley that I was doing the course. And in conversations, when you present yourself as a student, some Indians who are NRIs, they suddenly said, yeah, listen, this is Smriti Irani. And I was like, don't tell the professor. Now, the professor and I are very dear colleagues.
Yeah.
In fact, I have taught as adjunct faculty in one of his classes. But the whole experience of learning fintech, the whole experience of learning crypto, while I am the gender minister of India, which has nothing to do with my portfolio. So I've always had that inclination. So this journalistic journey emanated from a desire to learn, read more.
But that is the reason why everyone becomes a journalist, right? Exactly what you said, curiosity about the world, wanting to know, wanting to be where the action is. And nobody starts off as an anchor. Everyone starts off by wanting to be, and hopefully everyone should start off by wanting to be a reporter.
Yeah.
And then some people drift into anchoring, and most people
I
prefer
did
the
land a
reporting.
job as a stringer. I landed a job as a stringer for Z. And I still remember coming with tidbits about this story, that story, and a lot of my political stories used to get thrown. And as was the editor, he said, आप एक काम करो, आप जाओ, आप बम्बई जाके जो बॉलीवुड का स्टार है उसका इंटरव्यू लो. I was like, अरे भाई, मुझे political coverage करनी है. So the first ever political coverage of elections in Goa, I was one of the assistants there. I was one of the stringers there. But I don't know why they felt that I should just cover Bollywood. So I was very disappointed, but I was like, okay, nonetheless, it's a job. So I did it. So I did land a job, but they wanted me to focus on the glamour and not hardcore politics.
In hindsight, probably just as well you didn't become a reporter and a TV anchor person, sitting and conducting a panel discussion with 6 people out there compared to what you finally did. But when I'm coming to the frameworks, right now, let's come to the political framework. Are you still passionate and committed to politics? Is that
Yeah.
still what you see as your primary number one
Yes.
calling? Next 20, 30 years of your life, this
Of
is
course,
what I'm going
I
to be
think
doing.
what has happened is that people presume you're a politician only if you're a minister. People presume you're a politician only if you're an MP. I did not begin my politics from being either. I spent a substantial amount of my political life in the opposition. I spent a substantial life in my Sangathan as a BJP Karyakarta. And all of it, I think, built up the political passion that I have, even to this day. I was extremely, as a media professional, successful. So politics was not a alternative for me just because my media career had come to a ruin. And I think this is one of the other reasons why I did a reprise of Kyunki. I was very clear that once you reach the pinnacle of your office in the particular ecosystem that you are, in the age group, in the gender slot that you are, people start presuming that, oh, you have nothing better to do. This was also a way of proving that, listen, if I want to be a professional, I still have a capacity which you may not be aware of, but which I can tap into and successfully so. So this was also a reminder to the self and to everybody else that I am not doing politics because I'm dependent on it for sustenance. For normally people do politics for 3 things. One, for fame and glory. Second, for money. And there are very few people who just want to bring about a change. I was in the third category. So for me, this was a way of saying, what is it that from a policy perspective I want to change? When I was in the youth wing, Dharmendra Pradhan was the president. Way back in 2003, Devendra Fadnavis was vice president with me in Maharashtra. Gopinath Munde was president of Maharashtra. Now, how many women in the organization have worked both in Maharashtra with Gopinath Munde, with Pramod Mahajan, with Nitin Gadkari, taken that tutelage, worked with Atal Bihari Vajpayee, with Lal Krishna Advani?
And politics was in your family, right?
No,
I mean,
I
in a
was the
sense-
only politician in my family.
But a
They were
connection with
all,
the Sangh was there.
My grandfather and my mother both are Swayam Sevaks, but they abhor the word politician. They are not politician. So I was the first politician in my family. My experiences of working with the stalwarts, both at the state and the center, kind of fueled my desire to bring about policy change. So even when I was in the youth wing, which is predominantly a boys' club, I remember my conversations with Mr. Munde, where he said that, we have placed you in the youth wing because we want more and more young girls to be a part of active politics at a very young age. So how can you bring women, young women, into the political fold? I still remember he gave me 55 spots in Maharashtra. He said, these are the zillas and these are the denotions. You have to go and ensure there's one female leader. There are many, but they never get that recognition. Can you show me those 55 young women who can then take the journey forward? We managed to find them in 6 months. So my Sangathan Yatra also was about bringing substantial change at the grassroots. I was very happy at the grassroots.
And somewhere along the way, you decided to, I don't know whether you decided to or somebody else suggested it, to become the Rahul Gandhi specialist in the BJP.
That is an assignment given. You see, I think what people don't realize about a organized framework like the BJP is that you don't just get to cherry pick what you want to do. You are given assignments, you are given responsibilities. My first responsibility was to work within the Yuva Morcha, which is the youth wing. My second assignment was to fight from Chandni Chowk.
Yeah.
And if people presume that I picked Amethi, Amethi has had a history of electoral losses for BJP. So anybody in their right mind would not pick a place where you're destined to lose.
So the first time you went to Amethi, you must have been expecting to lose, right? Taking on the Gandhis.
I was very clear because I'd had enough electoral and organizational experience to know that I'm so close to a victory. Only I had 22 days, so that was not enough. But one could see the winds of change. So if you remember, I kept saying that we are that close. Now for somebody who comes to a dynasty stronghold and goes from 30,000 votes to 3 lakh votes in just 20 days, it's an impossibility, especially if your whole organizational structure is broken. But that was the overwhelming sense that I had from the people. Also that I had to keep working at it. The constituency itself was delimited in such a fashion that Congress would always win. So it was a shot in the dark. But the issue is that how do you construct the shot in the dark? People had nothing. They wanted somebody to come and fix the house. I fixed the house. But traditionally the mindset was of the Congress party.
So in 2019, when you won, when you beat Rahul Gandhi in Amethi, which was the Gandhi family stronghold, would you say that was one of the highest high points of your political career?
No.
Or
I
high
think
points
if you
so far?
look, no. If you have to judge me on my political career as somebody who wants to contribute to policy, the fact that I could do the base documentation for the national education policy, for me, that's the high point. Because that policy is in continuum.
Yeah, that's making a difference, which I'll come to. How
for
do you...
me, that was a value.
Yeah.
Because I had won and lost before. I don't think many people reflect on the fact that my second victory in the Rajya Sabha was that infamous fight where I was a candidate, Amit Bhai was a candidate, and Ahmed Patel was a candidate. So I've seen my share of historical political battles. I was also the Prabhari of Goa, and our endeavor was to make Manohar Parrikar the Chief Minister. One of my first assignments was when Vasundhara Raje was the chief ministerial candidate of BJP from Rajasthan. So I've seen my fair share where, if not me, then somebody we were backing on the direction of the organization was going to be on. I'm one of those very rare people. If you remember, Uma Bharti was imprisoned in Hubli.
Yeah.
I went with her release documents, which was, God, how many years ago? 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So I've seen my fair share of political history. So if I'm to judge my political achievements, they will not be from a lens of victory or defeat. They will be from the perspective of how could I make a difference, because that is the purpose with which I've come into politics.
So I'm going to come and dwell at some length on how to make a difference and how you believe difference should be made.
When the back of the country was to the wall during COVID and we had no PPE suits in our country, I'm very fortunate that Prime Minister gave me the opportunity to create the PPE industry in India. We had no raw materials, no machinery to create something of that value and become the second largest exporters in the world in 3 months. That's not easy. I mean, it sounds very easy, it's not.
So in your years as minister, so you already mentioned the
So
NEP,
education
you
policy,
mentioned textile,
PPE.
portion,
No,
but
no,
that
I'm
is something
saying,
which
no, no,
you...
I'm grateful for the opportunity to recount. Today, when kids choose a college or a university, they delve into the national ranking framework. That was designed and made by me as minister. That Prime Minister said, can we have a template? So we got people together to say this is the Indian ranking framework which recognizes Indian needs in education and the complications of education in regional languages. Today, if you look at Swayam, the portal that is the first MOOCs platform ever by the government of India in the history of our country, that whole process was designed by me.
But
So
if you're
if you
looking...
look at
So I think the things that you achieved, okay, if you had to look back at that period with
technical
hindsight...
textiles, textiles that is used for communication, satellite building, defense,
Yeah.
aerospace, there was no HSN code for it. I still remember, I think the victory lies in the fact that you have a boss who is open to new ideas. I
In...
still remember walking up to him and saying, I would like to, sir, concentrate on HSN codes for technical textiles, which is not normally done.
He said,
Doesn't
go ahead and
exist.
do it.
No, it doesn't exist. So can I do it? And you have a boss who says, okay, fine, tell me who all will sit across the scientific community, the corporate community, the administrative community, and say, let's get this done.
In hindsight, if you had to do something different, do you think you were perhaps too confrontational in one or two areas, like the Rohit Vemula
No, I
incidents, the
think that
JNU
I
incidents?
had to
Could you
bring.
have been a little softer
No.
then?
I think that the issue is, I have always fought for women to be established just for who they are. And women should not, in some way, redesign themselves to become more acceptable. If they are vehement in a particular issue, let them be so. Why does a woman have to be coy, soft, for you to listen to her? If there is an issue where a lie is being spoken 1,000 times and you have to defend your government, can you mount that defense by being so soft spoken and say, Hanji, bhai sahab, please suniye? That is not the expectation I have of a minister that represents my country. I would rather have a minister in my country put together facts and present it to Parliament and to the people of the country. But just because it's a female minister, I would expect her to be, meri saadi kitni achhi hai, look at how soft spoken I am. That belies everything I stood for as a woman in politics. I created this whole journey so that women have the freedom to just be themselves and not become a stereotype.
That also translated into many of your debates in Parliament, where you were sometimes seen
If
as
I'm
being very strong, very
if I'm very
aggressive
passionate
on
about
television.
an issue, if I'm very passionate about an issue, why should I lie about it? Why do I have to become that? Even Tulsi is not that. I mean, the fact that the audience has an off-take for an imaginary character that is strong, that means your society has changed so much. And would I have any respect for a leader who is saying, अरे मुझे बचाओ, अरे जब तुमको इतनी मदद की ज़रूरत है तो लोगों को कैसे बचाओगे? So I'm very clear, my whole life's journey was about letting people voice their opinions just as who they are and not fit into a particular structure of how people view themselves or view them for that matter.
And that you think, I mean, in a sense, it does fit in. Like even when you are on television or you're defending the party, like during the budget now in recent times.
This is my ideological mothership. This is my organization that I have literally bled for, worked for, spent 26 years of my life for. I'm very passionate about my organization. I'm very passionate about my leadership. I'm very passionate about my karyakartas because it's a huge family and not everybody gets a shot at service. So if I'm not passionate in protecting them or my ideology or the people that I work with, then shame on me. Why shouldn't I be?
And you are saying it will not worry you if that passion is seen as being aggressive or being over aggressive by anybody.
Is it seen similarly in men? No.
Valid point. Valid point. Maybe a man saying they're having the same sort of speech may not be seen as...
He would be looked upon as passionate. I'm looked as abrasive. But I think people tend to know. I always ask people, could you find a flaw in my facts? No. So if you could not find a flaw in my facts, if you could not find a flaw in my body of work, what do you reduce me to? Oh, she is fat. Oh, she is ugly. Oh, she is abrasive. If I am to measure a politician only on the basis of their facts that they present, could I substantiate each position? Yes. Is that possibly what is irritating about me? That you can't actually find a factual error on a debate that we are having. I always used to tell my colleagues from all parties, find me a factual error. And I'm happy to explain myself. I'm the only possible minister in that particular designated spot who passed a bill in parliament with the support of every political party. How could I create that consensus if I was always so belligerent? Belligerence without cause or passion without cause always gets stuck when you have to pass bills, right? So everybody that I worked with across the aisle knew that I'm speaking from a position of fact. I'm speaking because I'm passionate about a particular issue. But why am I doing it? I'm doing it for a national cause or for the greater good.
Right. I was asking about 2019. Let's come to 2024. The fact that you lost in that election, and that also not to Rahul Gandhi but to KL Sharma, whom that big giant killer contest, or I mean, both of you were very prominent, you and Rahul Gandhi. That contest never happened. It was KL Sharma, and he won that. Was that a real shock or a setback to you,
No.
or were there other factors happening in UP at
Anybody
that
who
time?
has a little historical import or has a capacity to study, between 2019 and 24, I always said, I don't know who will fight Amethi, but BJP will have the best shot. The fact of the matter is that you cannot erase from history books that I'm the only human being in Indian politics who could defeat the national president of the Congress party. What you also cannot erase is that Rahul Gandhi or the Gandhi family did not have the capacity to fight Amethi. So they had to put up another candidate.
Would you have had a better shot if it was Rahul Gandhi there?
That would have been a reflection of how much of rejection that particular individual faces within Amethi. Obviously, they had an inkling of it. That's why nobody stood.
Okay, now in the period that follows immediately after that, right, what was your thought process? Because I think there was a certain amount of reinvention that happened, which I'm going to come to now. But what was your own thought process? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question, because there were two ways of handling that. That, okay, I've lost in Amethi, I'm not in the union cabinet, I'm going to sulk about it or retrospect about it. Or you could take a particular position saying, I'm going to now think about reinvention. Be relevant in boardrooms and others by doing things like Spark and the Alliance for Common Good.
So when I lost in 2004,
2024.
I lost in 2004. Even then, I went back to work as a professional. And I continued my political journey, contribution to my party. So 2004, 2024, the template was the same. I went back to my profession in the media business and I continued contributing to politics. The only time I gave up my profession is when I became a cabinet minister, because you can't be working. Even the day that I was called to take oath, I was on set. I was working.
However, I think the reason I'm trying to ask you is that is there a grand design behind this? Because if you were to look at what the choices you made after 2024 are, you are back in the public's view very strongly as a result of Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi version 2. They're seeing you on a daily basis. That's for the masses. You are making yourself relevant in boardrooms by doing Alliance for Common Good and Davos and Spark and women's
I'm
entrepreneurship.
not making a relevance. I am relevant, hence I'm getting the opportunity to expand.
Okay, so there, I mean,
Because I think that it's easy to be at Davos when you're a minister. That is a
Right.
protocol. How many individuals get to be there and have a whole alliance set up there on gender? So that is a manifestation or an acceptance of my work for women across the board and across geographies. For instance, recently we did for the Spark program, which is to help around 1 lakh women-owned businesses in 300 cities in India. We have an MOU now with the British Council, which is obviously a designate of the UK government. So we have these opportunities, and when I say we, it's all the youngsters that I've brought together for this program. These opportunities come by because obviously I've delivered on certain social markers. And I
Women,
know how to distinguish between my social markers and my political work and my media work. So I think I've been one of those very rare individuals who could separate all three lines.
so that's what I'm going to now sort of turn my attention to, is looking at what obviously is a passion project for you, women's empowerment, women's upliftment. How do we do it? You had a chance to do it as Minister for Women and Child Welfare. You did a number of initiatives out there. What you're now doing is interesting because politically, at any way, the best way to do women's empowerment and women's upliftment is various schemes, Ladli Behna and Maji, Ladki Behna, various schemes like that are done. You seem to be saying, well, those schemes are fine up to a point and they will take you out of poverty, but what happens after that? So, how do we do
I
women's
think that
upliftment from that point
one of the
onwards?
greatest contributions of Prime Minister Modi has been that he has understood and helped identify for people at large in our country that if women are economically sufficiently positioned in their individual capacities, then they can take care of their rights. So any other scheme that you're talking about is basically a manifestation of that thought process, be it building toilets or giving enhanced scholarships or giving affirmative action either in politics or in IITs, or for that matter doing Jandhan or Mudra. The entire landscape of his effort has been that if a woman has 3-4 things sorted out: one, her health and nutrition; second, her capacity to earn a living; third, her capacity to engage with a financial institution directly; fourth, to have a skill set or education, then the lady can take care of herself. And women have a tendency of spending close to 40% of their earnings only on the education and health of their own family systems. So, if you're sorting out issues of women, you have a government at hand which is doing various schemes. But what about people at large? Because any politician of any hue that you talk to, they will tell you that ultimately, if change does not begin within family systems, then you can keep giving as much support as you want. That change, which is to be churned from within, will never happen. So, when we work, let's say, with women owned businesses, we are not restricted only to those women. We also work with women who work within those businesses. So, what are their aspirations? What have I seen? 35, at the age of 35 to let's say 55, they walk up to me and say, Angrezi सीखनी है. They walk up to me and say, मुझे बताओ chat GPT कैसे चलता है. And at 50, 55, if you're coming from, let's say, a slum, if you're coming from a village, people do a double take. They say, आपको क्या सीखना है? She said, I have Gemini on my phone. So many people do a double take. I mean, I have had people go out and say, just stand there and you'll have women coming and asking you questions. And professionals have been extremely delighted. I had a digital marketing professional come with me to an area where waste goes for recycling. And he's had women come up to him and say, अरे बेटा देखो मैं ना Instagram पे जितना ऐड देती थी उसका मुझे इतना ऑफ टेक नहीं मिल रहा जितना Facebook पे मिल रहा है तो Facebook की मेरी marketing strategy बताओ. And that young gentleman was gobsmacked. He's like, this auntie is asking me at 60 that how to spend better on Facebook and not. So it's a learning curve for them as well.
It's actually fascinating because, and let me just try and unpack part of what you said. So there are two parts. There are two parts, if we can say, of the journey of empowerment. One is from subsistence or poverty or not being empowered within the family to having enough to eat, basic skills, the power to say, I will control where my family is spending the money. So the schemes and all that are running there, that's where the politics really comes inside. So those schemes are sometimes written off as freebies or bravery
It's
culture
keeping a
and all
lot
of
of
that.
families going. It's keeping a lot of women going because it is creating a financial authority within a family system because the money is going directly. For instance,
And shifting that directly to women, you think is a really important twist
I'll
because the
give you
women.
research to validate what I'm saying. Research says that when a female has capital asset in her name, she is less likely to be beaten up in a domestic situation vis-a-vis her just having paychecks. So if you look at the 4 crore homes that the Prime Minister made, 50% of them are in the name of the female alone and the other 50% are in joint names. So if that coverage is given to BPL families, We have close to what? How many people who are APL? How many people who are middle class? How can I help these women now create a capital asset for themselves? Most of the young girls that we spoke to were told कि अच्छा ठीक है पढ़ाई कर लो उसके लिए थोड़ा पैसा है then we'll get you married off. Right? ठीक है थोड़ी सी नौकरी कर लो. But the agency is still not with them. They have to seek that permission. But the minute we tell that young girl or that family, what if the girl works enough, buy her a house first? The whole conversation shifts. We would sit with families and tell the gentleman in the family, आपने अपनी will बनाई क्या? Because the wife cannot have that conversation. And the man looks at us absolutely flummoxed. मतलब मैं मर जाऊँगा. But आपको अगर कुछ हो गया and you're the only earning member of your family, what have you done about insurance? Does your wife know how to get that money? Does your family know where the savings are? Do they have a process through your will to? So those are the difficult conversations. Many people look at people like us to say, "आप बोल दो," then we can. So it's actually bringing about a societal churn.
So the fact that women now have bank accounts,
Yes.
right, in the poorest sections and all across. I
Yes.
mean, politically,
60% of the Jandhan bank accounts are in rural and semi-urban areas. Yes.
the fact that the money is now being given to women in their own bank accounts, I'm still at that subsistence
Yeah,
layer, moving
yeah.
them up into into that level. It's astonishing how politically powerful that is. So with your politician,
So I'm very
hat on,
happy about that. I think what
does it
Prime
make a big difference that it's coming to the women and
Prime
not to the men
Minister
in the
Modi
house?
has made females a very substantial vote bank in our country. I mean, if you've done enough election coverage to know that there was a presumption that women will vote wherever the husband tells them, or the father tells them, or the male member of the family tells them.
Yeah.
Now to have entire polity look at women only as a substantial vote bank, that is a huge journey of what, 2.5 decades now. So I'd been there at the beginning of the journey, where with stalwarts like Sushma Swaraj, Sumitra Mahajan, Jayawanti Ben Mehta, you've known them. For us to scream and shout for 33% reservation, I still remember when it was passed in cabinet, I had tears, and all my male colleagues were looking at me weirdly as to why are you so, emotional about it. That's because we'd spent 2.5 decades screaming, shouting, wanting that.
No, the money to women, giving directly to women. I mean, of course, BJP has done it very
33%
successfully.
reservation.
Reservation is a major. Yeah.
It'll change the political face of our country.
But the fact is that, I mean, it's happened elsewhere. West Bengal elections are coming. Mamata Banerjee implemented it, and it actually may have had a major impact in some of the elections there also. So that's the first part of it.
Mamata
So you
Banerjee
think
cannot implement the parliamentary.
no, I'm talking about about direct benefits being
But that's
given
what
to
the Prime
women.
Minister is doing. So for anybody else to copy that is not rocket science.
But I'm saying, is it not politically accepted? So
The fact that Prime
33%
Minister
reservation.
could create bank accounts to begin with for the transfer to happen, I think that is of great value, because forget about the gender. Even if you don't look at it from a gender lens, the fact that 550 million people in our country had no bank account.
So now let me come to the second part of what you're saying. So fine, you've now given women a certain amount of agency, a certain amount of skills. They're not at the subsistence level. Let's now come to what you're thinking of doing with Spark and with the Alliance for Common Good and other things.
Global
how
good,
do you
yeah.
how do you go from there? How do you take them from not subsistence, but you're an economic
are teaching
agent?
them. I
What is
end up
needed?
engaging with them with CAs and company secretaries that tell them how companies are formulated. What is the right size of a company? How do they redesign their businesses as per law? How to pay a GST, how to do a digital signature. These are the basics. How to look at the export potential of their the component they are selling. How to even look at standardizations or benchmarks, let's say like FSSAI. Do they need such certifications? So what are the certifications? What are the compliance procedures that they have to follow through? Many of these women have not thought it through from that perspective, because a lot of them create businesses out of their own savings or take a little bit of money from, let's say, family institutions. Very rarely do we find people who are going to, let's say, now banks for the third time around. So those who have gone to banks already know how to do the compliance structure. How can you help them become mid-sized companies? So what is that whole journey? That is what we are focused on.
I heard you speaking also at the AI summit and other things, because some people would say that what you really need right now is you can try and train women in all of this and give them the tools to learn all of this, or you can just help them understand how to harness AI? Because
No, I
AI
think
could
that
actually help you with a lot of this.
there is a lot of misunderstanding about what AI will do with regards to the agency a woman has. We have to be mindful of how AI is constructed. Firstly, it scrapes through everything that the internet has as per whatever data is available. Historically, internet data is not so inclined to show you a robust performing feature for women. That
Yeah.
includes credit lines, that includes health innovation, that includes even skill sets. So
Agree,
should
the
I
bias has to go, it's
so
biased.
AI and what we are doing is a complete different module. For instance, if you look at Chat GPT today in our country, there are 100 million users plus for Chat GPT. You'll be interested. There's actually a research which sees who has used AI for what purpose. Media is using it for rewriting articles
Yes.
and for compressing research. 64% used by media, which was supposed to be original to
And
its
you'll
form.
see it in newspapers with that they forget to take out that last
Yeah.
paragraph and say, would you like me to do this for you
Yes,
now? Which is
HR
clearly
personnel are using it for PPTs. So you are not using AI to the fullest capacity. You have something which is, let's say, like AlphaMind, where you have biological structures given which can be used for research purposes. And look at the dichotomy that we have today in India, a projected number of 1,80,000 people only who are using it for research in a country of 140 crore people. So, if I had some contribution to make to the systems of AI and how we enhance use, today we don't own enterprise software. We are happy to build platforms on it. How can I help people create momentum on enterprise software? How can I help people understand that AI can be used for deep tech and deep research? Right? How can I use AI, let's say, for translations in dialects? We have 19,000 dialects in our country, but AI is not available in all of those dialects. So there's a lot of productivity loss which happens because we don't use those tools in our native language or native dialects. So that work is very distinct from what is happening in Spark.
No, I was curious because when you said women entrepreneurs whom you are helping at Spark, if you're having people coming and saying, "Bhai, how do I use
that
Gemini?
you can
मैं Facebook
that you
marketing
can
कैसे करूं?"
yeah, that is
Actually, you
very
could.
that's a very rudimentary way of making them use it. That is not some high standardization of use of AI. So one has to be mindful in discourse also to tell people, just because you're using a Chat GPT and a Gemini to do a PPT or to discover, let's say, a particular framework, that is not the most productive. That's the first level of engagement with AI. So I don't think many people expect me, because they never saw Smriti Irani from the prism of using AI or having a tech talk. But I think that there has to be a much more profound use of AI in our country. There are individuals and institutions that are using it. And I think given our capacity to innovate, the more Indians use AI for deep research, for innovation, I think the better off we will be.
As we go up the chain further, and as we wind up to the end of this, I'm just curious. I heard you saying once or twice, I think, that there is still that slight glass ceiling when it comes to women, right, at the highest levels in this country. And I mean, at least that's what some people believe. There's still a glass ceiling. That's one area I'm not entirely 100% sure of, because in India, as opposed to some other places, it is possible for women to go to the
I've
very
said that
top.
the glass ceiling construct is an American construct, as everybody who's read about it knows. Um, it is not as though challenges of gender are an isolated problem within our country. Gender has its own challenges across geographies. The issue is that at least we've set a template of a few kinds which we should be very proud of. Our commander in chief is a female
Yeah.
and has had a long standing service record in administration, in governance. So, her being positioned as President of India is not a happenstance. It is a whole journey and a culmination of that journey. Also, we have had a man as Prime Minister who gave us an administrative framework to dispose menstrual hygiene products. We've had a man as Prime Minister who passed 33% reservation bill in Parliament. We've had a man as Prime Minister who talks about 1 rupee sanitary pad from the ramparts of the Red Fort. So, what I find fascinating, and I told a few of my American colleagues, I said, we've had a bill of 24 weeks of termination of pregnancy passed in both houses of parliament without a murmur from any male politician, without a murmur from any male citizen of India. That is how mature we are on issues of reproductive rights of women. But yes, the
And
irony
certain other
is
things like toilets for girl
no, no,
children, which
the
was a campaign, I
irony
believe.
does exist that we have had pockets where we've had to fight for issues of gender. But if you look at the overarching Indian male, all of them are not interested in harassing women.
No, I'm also saying that there is one thing which I think India has been able to do quite successfully is that I know there are lots of other problems, but you can have a female commander-in-chief, female president, which fine, you can say, you've had a female prime minister, you had female chief ministers, you've had females as CEOs, you've had females at the top levels. Is there a ability to reach that level? Any number of female ministers. So, is it possible to go all the way to the top? I mean, America's never had a female president.
I think that is an American problem, mercifully not us. But I think that there are two kinds of people. For somebody who's had a political and media life of over 2.5 decades, what is the kind of female manifestation I want in power circles? Not somebody who is apologetic about being vehement, not somebody who is apologetic about being aggressive on a few issues of national importance. Not somebody who has to genuinely be coy enough so that you think that she's harmless enough to be positioned somewhere. That is not how the country will societally become more robust or politically become more robust. Because Indian women, for that matter, are not the shy, docile kind. They are very, very verbose. They are very, very opinionated. And anybody else that you see who is very coy, very quiet, is possibly not a complete manifestation of the real Indian woman. I also feel that if we as citizens do not lend our support and voices to such women, then we do a great disservice to the concepts of democracy. Because democracy is not about instruments of state alone. Democracy is actually about how people envisage the state to be. And if people envisage the state to be gender just, then it's the people of India who have to say that when women go to parliament, I don't want to talk about how she looks. I want to talk about what is the policy she brought, what is the legislation she brought, how did it impact a particular constituency, how did she function as a member of parliament. The minute you reduce it to how she looks, how she talks, then are we truly doing justice to the tenets of democracy?
Let's get the Smriti Irani formula. Top 3 things that you think, or top 4 things that we shouldn't do right now to continue to push ahead very fast with gender equality and gender justice.
Gender equality is not only about being equal to women. It's about equity, equal opportunity and equity for every gender, every class and subsection of people. So if they are the top 4 asks or desires that I have of my people, my country, 1, look at policy change, evaluate that policy change, and stand behind people who have a vision. I'm not putting a political color to it. If there is a vision which is impacting India 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, demand that of your politicians. Politicians have the capacity to rise to such a demand. The second ask, if I have, is let's have, for instance, when Prime Minister says 2047, he's setting a goal. What is our goal as people? What do I desire in my constituency, in my district? Am I really aware? Am I available to vote for a municipal election? Do I make myself available to go and vote in the Gram Panchayat elections? We have a lot of ask of our politicians, but we need to ensure that we also standardize for them that, like Atal Bihari Vajpayee set Bijli Sadak Pani as the template. Narendra Modi set financial transparency as a template, that the money goes from the treasury directly into the bank account. As people, have we asked for that different standardization across political parties of everybody? On the third issue, geopolitically, skill sets are changing with alacrity. the construct and concept of education is changing with alacrity. The government has given enough freedom per law to every institution to create a curriculum to match that pace. We need to demand that of our institutions, that you have the leeway. Did you create a curriculum which serves the needs of the young in this ever-changing, fast-paced world? Because if we miss that boat, Vikram, there's going to be catastrophe. The government is not an impediment. It is now incumbent upon the academic culture of our country to make sure what are those verticals of education and skill that need to be accelerated in our country.
Right. So, last question. I mean, you've been the minister, of course, for women and child welfare. You mentioned the word law briefly. Sometimes people feel that the right way to do all of this is to make laws and to legislate and put down things like protection. Sometimes it can backfire. I mean, there's some talk about whether there should be compulsory, leave during, at the time of a menstrual cycle.
No,
We've
I
had
took
things
a
like
I took a very strong stand on
saying,
that.
don't do it.
And I'll tell you why. I'm talking as a female professional. For somebody to give me leave on the basis of my menstrual cycle, they have to know my menstrual cycle.
Yes.
Would I like that private part of my life to be known to HR in my company?
No, and everybody else saying that, that this person is on leave for XYZ reason.
No. I'll give you another context to it. One, my HR and my finance team will have to know that, oh, this is that time of the month. Second, imagine a young girl and somebody in HR and finance is clocking when you have your cycle, because they have to make production or management decisions around when you'll be absent. And suddenly, you don't have a menstrual cycle exactly on that date. Imagine that young woman who's not married. And suddenly everybody in office is asking, oh, aaya nahi kya date? People are not functionally thinking through what is happening. Then you have a company which says, hey, matlab 5 din, I have Saturday, Sunday which is off. Or let's presume I have Sunday off completely. Plus I have 5 more days. That means out of 30 days, at least 10 days this woman will be missing. Why should I hire the woman? Let me hire a man. So you're not creating greater agency for me as a woman. You're creating new challenges at work for me. So when I don't know what the Supreme Court has opined in totality, but I believe the Supreme Court is of the same view. Because you have to fundamentally, functionally see what is happening to women at work.
But there are other similar laws which are, they are passed with the best of intention, but can be misused. Like some of the dowry laws, for example, which are now being used. A couple perfectly fine, they have a breakup, then suddenly they'll say domestic violence, X, Y, Z. These things can be misused on occasion.
The fact that a law can be misused cannot become the excuse for not having the law.
But safeguards may need to be built in.
Safeguards are built in already. Those safeguards have to be used by the administrative person who's positioned to use it, or the legal person who's assisting those whose rights have been usurped. Safeguards are in place. Whatever I've read of the law, safeguards are in place, including safeguards within the sexual harassment at workplace, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace bill. Those safeguards exist. It is incumbent upon us as maybe legal professionals or policy makers or people in the police systems or the judicial authorities to ensure that that safeguard is actioned.
Yeah,
but
so
just because a law can be misused cannot become an excuse for the absence of law.
All right, Smriti Irani, it was a pleasure having you with us. Very, very happy birthday one more time.
Thank you.
Perhaps you can just leave us with a thought. No boxes to pin you into or cage you into. Smriti Irani at 2030, what are you thinking of?
Still not being caged enough into a box.
So multiple
still
boxes.
Being relevant enough for a conversation with Vikram Chandra. Still being part of the India story.
I shall be back to have a conversation with you in 2030 on the India story.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.